Foley. It's Tim Foley. What's the R for?
I mean, R is for Ryan. TR Foley is just, when I came out of journalism school in 2008, 2009, it was like, just Tim Foley catchers and pitchers, and everybody was talking about Google ability. So just, yeah, just have TR Foley as sort of a way to have a pin name, I suppose. But, it's just Tim. My parents call me Timothy. My friends at home call me T. Most of my friends from college call me Foley. So it's a variety of names, I think, like all of us, right?
Yeah. So it's a pen name essentially. TR. It's your
Yeah,
initials and your.
no one really calls me TR.
Okay. So I've only ever called you like even when I've like yelled at you in like Vegas. It's always been
Yeah,
Tim.
yeah, that's fine.
But I got to be careful yelling at you in person, man. You'll kick my ass. Not really. You're kind of civilized.
I actually today I had to almost pull my wife off with some people. They were walking through this. We're in this garden, this outdoor garden. It's like a huge park. It's one of the one things that they left open in Virginia during the state lockdown because it's easy to keep distance and all that kind of thing. Well, these two older women came bombing around the corner, power walking, and they like our daughter was like playing in the mulch, and we were kind of standing to the side. And I guess because they felt like they had to split us, they weren't keeping 6 feet, and they made this unholy like mess about it, grunting and like this is the 60-something-year-old woman. She turned around, she called me and my wife idiots because we weren't giving her 6 feet. We're like, you just ran down the middle of the street, like at a middle of a path at a random time. Like, how are we supposed to know that you're gonna come here and that you can't wait 2 seconds for us all to kind of anyway, it's just I think people are so much on or kind of on edge right now. So
Here's the other thing. Okay. I'm just gonna be honest with you. I'll take that over how my parents are treating it. I'll take that. I'm gonna be honest with you because my parents. I told you, my mom got a courtesy ride back from the dealership to get her car fixed, and I'm like, I'm FaceTime with my dad. This is like 2 days ago, and she gets out of a random SUV, and obviously it's not self driven, and it's like a person drove her there, and I'm like, they just don't get it. They literally just don't get it at all. So I'll take that over, and then we got people on the path because we go hiking every day around here. We live out in Geauga County in Ohio, and we got like a lot of nice hiking paths. And the people with their dogs, I pull my kids off the side, right?
yeah,
And people will let their dog get close to us, and they're like, "Oh, he won't bite." And I'm like, "No, we're not petting dogs. You don't understand.
exactly. That's what we're doing today.
That thing could be a carrier." And it's just like
Yeah.
maybe I'm paranoid, but at the same time, so let's just get into that. Maybe I'm paranoid, but maybe I'm not. You actually tested positive, and you're on the road to recovery from COVID
Yeah.
19, right?
I think to start us off, I've obviously done a few interviews, but like one of the things that I we went out to Kazakhstan in September, and a good friend of mine and a teammate who was like I don't know, he's a lot older than me, like 5 or 6 years. He's a really famous videographer. He tested positive as well, and we just figured it out through a mutual friend, and we called each other. I was like, oh no shit, and he has the same. He had a lot of the same symptoms and stuff. Obviously, this wasn't from Kazakhstan, but it's interesting because being from New York, I must know now like 4 or 5 people, that have all been sick and tested positive and all that kind of stuff. So I think it's really just a function of I think the city and being there. But yeah, I tested positive on the 22nd, but I started feeling sick maybe like the 13th, and I lost my sense of smell and taste on the 16th. About so
Did
it
you
was it was pretty quick. I mean, all over. I mean, who knows how long I had it before then, but.
did you know right away, or did you suspect right away due to like just how it kind of like the trend it was going at in New York City, and obviously the New York City thing is it's the epicenter of it in the United States of America. Obviously, it's the most densely populated area in the United States of America. If you look at like Los Angeles County and Orange County, that's spread out over a big, huge area.
Yeah.
The five boroughs are not like that.
No, we're stacked on top of each other, and also we accept a lot of international travelers. It's a very international city, so I think after even after the travel ban was put in against China in mid-January, 40,000 Chinese came to America after that, and most of them are coming to New York. So like if you do talk about direct transmission like that as opposed to community spread that what we're obviously experiencing now, that was happening. Also, travelers from Italy, travelers from other hotspots. It's just New York is one of those like top 4 destinations in the world that you just go to and that we'll travel to. So yeah, and then once you're there, you're in the subways, you're in the shared cars, you're in. Um, I have an apartment building of 360 units, and it's like we're all in there together in the elevators, touching the same things. I'm at a WeWork. So there is so much human contact that, of course, I think that's been a big propellant for the spread. And certainly it's hard for me, and even airports, it's hard for me to know where I got it, and I'll never know. So.
Okay, so when we look at like how China, everybody lives in apartments. Nobody lives in a house. You live in an apartment. Which borough do you live in, by the way?
I live in Manhattan. Yeah.
So you live in Manhattan. What part of Manhattan?
I live on 14th and 7th, sort of 15th and 7th. So it's kind of like it's the very last street of Chelsea. So it'd be like Lower Chelsea, but it's much more probably West Village. But yeah, Lower Chelsea, West Village.
How far do you live from the water?
4 avenues.
So you're right. I mean, you're
10 avenues the other way.
So you can get to the water really quick. Like where you guys have had the events. Haven't you had the event in the Chelsea Pier before?
They had the event at the South Street Seaport for Beach Streets.
Yeah.
They had it at South Street Seaport at Pier 17 in 2018. Yeah, that was a really cool event.
Was that close to you?
No. I mean, sure.
Everything's close there, right? I mean,
if it was a country road, it'd be really close to me.
Yeah.
In the city, it could feel like taking 45 minutes to get there just based on, getting yourself around.
So USA Wrestling, yeah, when they host that event, we don't obviously the future is so uncertain, but UWW actually did the last event. The last sporting event you could watch live was a UWW event in Ottawa.
Right.
Were you there for that?
I was there for the championships the week before.
Okay, because that was the qualifier, was the last event.
Yeah, 7th and 8th, and then I was meant to fly to Japan on the 12th and stay there till the 25th, and I was going to be there for filming a documentary on Kaori Icho, 4-time Olympic champion, and then also doing some pickups and some small interviews with Fumita, Higuchi, Yui Sasaki, all these other obviously Risako Kawai. We're going to do all that, but that got canceled. But that's why I didn't stay for the qualifier. The qualifier was next week, and it was the last event. But I think one of the things that made it unique that week, a lot of people were canceling things, was everybody was already there. I think for the most part, I think with the exception maybe of a few athletes, most of the athletes and coaches had already been there during the championships or had already arrived to start working out. So looking forward, it became more dangerous, I think, to have everybody show back up again at some later date, and who knows what the situation's going to be like. So, and it looks like nobody who competed at that tournament has tested positive. Obviously, Ismael Guerrero tested positive apparently, and he was there during that time, but he didn't compete. He competed at the championship, so he could have picked it up in Cuba or in the airport or whatever.
Does your daughter, you said your daughter, she's 19 months. You didn't get her tested, but do you think that she contracted?
I don't know. Yeah, probably. I don't know. I mean, she obviously didn't have any symptoms. She's healthy as an ox. But yeah, I don't know. I mean, like I was saying before to somebody, I was like, we shared a bed for the first couple of days before we got a crib here. So we're sharing a bed. I'm like waking up with her hand in my mouth. Like, it's pretty intimate. You know what it's like, you're a father. And it's like, you're just all over each other and, giving her kisses. Like, she's like just learning how to give kisses and stuff. So it's like, yeah, I mean, look, it's fine. If she did. She didn't, then so be it. I mean, I don't know what the future holds in terms of getting antibody testing or if it even matters if there's mutation of the virus or whatever. But yeah, she's healthy and that's all I can really ask for. So my parents, like, my parents are in their 60s. We've been cohabitating now for about for over 3.5 weeks. So, I'm obviously not contagious anymore, but we're still treating it the same. When I arrived, we treated it like I had it, which was a good thing. And then even now, we're basically like, we haven't hugged in 3.5 weeks. There's no reason to start now.
How's the setup there?
At least they tell me it's about coronavirus. Maybe they just don't want to hug me. I'm not sure.
What's the setup with your parents' house? You're in the Chesapeake Bay area, right?
Yeah. We're down in Chesapeake Bay down in Norfolk. It's a beach house. It's got a good number of rooms. My wife and I work from what was previously my dad's office. Is where we have our setups, and then we share a room. The baby has her own room, like an extra room that they have. And so we're all spread out. We have our own bathrooms and that kind of thing, which I think is I think bathrooms and washing hands, having your own bathrooms, having your own towels, washing hands, not sharing drinks, not sharing utensils, that kind of thing which we haven't found to be very difficult at all. I think the biggest concern for a while there was just that the baby would like. I was like, oh man, the baby's been kissing me, but then she's also been kissing someone else, or maybe the baby has it. Maybe the baby's the one who's like passing this along to people. Um, but I think we've kind of gotten out of that, gotten out of that window now. So, I just kind of glove up and put the mask on, and I go out to go get the food the last few days because I've been symptom free for 11 days or whatever. So,
We don't know that it's going to circle back. We just don't know anything about it. It's novel. It's new, right? We don't know if it's going to circle back around to you, and if you get it again, right? Like, because you can get the flu twice, right? You can get the flu, different strains of it, and it's obviously probably mutated, right? We just don't know anything about it because I was talking to Dr. Mike Matten, and he runs a bunch of ERs, and these kids wrestle. They've been on World. I think you know who the Mattins are. They're from Ohio, but he's obviously on the front line of this right now, and we just don't know very much about this right now.
Right.
Was your
we don't know origination, and obviously in terms of keeping, in terms of American health policy, we're just trying to like mitigate disaster. We're not even getting to the point of like contact tracing and controlling these small groups of individuals where these little clusters happen. So I just think we're such a period of incredible uncertainty right now. I think that in terms of the concern list, like antibody tests for myself and for someone else aren't that high on the. I just don't think currently they're that high of a priority.
Because it isn't. And if you look like the movies, if you watch stuff like I Am Legend, right? And you were leaving New York City. That's a Manhattan actually setting. When you left, it obviously wasn't I Am Legend when you left. Did you guys just take a train down? What'd you do?
Yeah, you definitely was slowing down. I mean, you could get a sense. I think my wife and I, we were fortunate enough to have childcare. We both work, and I travel so much. So we have a nanny, and we went after work because I was like, I think I'm gonna leave tomorrow. Maybe, I don't know. Oh, let's go have a drink. And we're like, let's try to go to bar Pasolino. It's really tough, not tough to get into, but it's just typically packed. And I was like, oh wow, there's not that many people out today. And I think that's been the trend for some time now. Even started 3 weeks ago. But I know I'm speaking to some of my videographers who are actually based in New York too. They were telling me they've been like getting out and going around the city a little bit and getting these like epic shots of like the clean streets, kind of like what you saw in I Am Legend, minus the the elk running down the middle of the street.
It wasn't madness though. Like it obviously wasn't like these military quarantines or like gates up. When you guys left, did you and her just take the train down and switch trains? What'd you do?
No, there was a car dealership down the street from Hertz down the street from me, and so I got a one-way rental, which is incredibly uneconomical. It was horribly expensive, but we went to we just drove through the night. She decided it was a party, and so she stayed awake the whole time. I don't know why. She always is like 7:15. She's like asleep. She wakes up at 7. She's always been a great sleeper. 3-hour naps sometimes, but she for some reason she got in the car and she was like, "This is cool. Like let's stay up." And then she fell asleep. Like finally, I got pulled over. No, she fell asleep at 10:45. I got pulled over at 11:15 in somewhere in Maryland in a speed trap. The woman came up to me and she's like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "I'm going to Virginia from New York, just trying to get away from the the situation." And I'm whispering because the baby is in the back. I'm like, "Yeah. So don't worry about it. Sorry about that. Yeah, give me the ticket. I gotta get going." And she came back and she said, "Just a warning, just a warning." And I was like, "Oh, this is great." But then the baby woke up like on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, which is like a 26-mile bridge. We got into traffic, and so there was like 40 minutes left. She woke up and she was like having a moment, for 45 minutes, where she made me hold her hand as I was driving the whole time. It was like, oh man, I was so tired. But yeah, that's what we did. We just kind of escaped that way.
And that's that's bridges and tunnels and bridges and it varies where you're at on the Chesapeake Bay Bridge, right?
Yeah. I mean, it's a hardy piece of construction, but yeah, there's a couple of tunnels, or 2 tunnels, and it's not like a ton of mileage for the tunnels, but they have most of they just do that obviously for the ship passing. If you can see from the window here, you can see all the ships going through. When the Comfort went up to New York, it left from here, so we could see it leave and then go to New York. The medical ship that was sent up by the Navy.
So, all that's crazy, but you and her were able to drive, and then you were able to just drop the car off at Hertz, and then
Yeah.
how'd you get from Hertz to mom and dad's house?
Well, I just dropped it off the next day, so I had 24-hour rental. So they followed me to the airport, dropped it off, came back, washed up their car because I was in it.
Yeah.
It's so wild. The whole thing's just been crazy. It's with, it's interesting, like thinking, I'm sure you're going through this as well. There's such a new normal now. It's already becoming a new normal, and it's strange. It's fascinating because it's a slow moving, for lack of a better term, in terms of cultural impact, it's a slow moving 9/11 in the sense that it's going to have ripple effects for decades and decades, and there are going to be some who are going to be extremely small things. Like, can you imagine shaking a hand right now? Of course not. You're not going to go shake someone's hand. You're not going to be hugging people for a while, and it's a sad truth of it. But then you think of like the larger impact of like, what is this going to do for, staying out of politics, but like, what is this going to do about public health? What are you entitled to as a citizen? Because maybe if I kept you, maybe if we do a better job of keeping people who aren't employed on, having them have medical options, then maybe that keeps me safe, in a situation like a pandemic. So there's going to be a lot of, that. Or like I was talking to my wife a couple days ago, I was like, we need to like take mushrooms or drop acid, I don't know. And we need to figure out how to, I don't know what you do for these outcomes, but I was like, we got to get like crazy, introspective and whatever, figure out how are we going to work doors in the future? Because like if you're in a workplace and you reach and grab a door, it's like every time you're reaching and grabbing a door, you're thinking about it, right? So you either have to have this person wearing a glove, or maybe you just develop a new type of door. I mean, they have doors, obviously.
Yeah, you can kick that kick door that a lot of the bathrooms have. There's a kick thing at the bottom. That's the new. No, that's right. Dude. They got to redo doors completely. Doors are completely redone.
And that sounds bad, except unless you're a door manufacturer, and then you're like, innovation is great. People got to buy more doors.
Yeah.
So there's all there's these weird. There's so many things. There's so many things you haven't thought about that are going to change, right? Seating on subways, seating on buses. Just personal distance. I don't think that you're going to come out of spacing ever again. I think people are going to give each other.
No, this is the new. You're right. So, hey, hold on. So, this is one of my partners, one of your guys' partners, right? There you go, right? And they partner with you got UWW. They're one of your partners, and if you look at a match, it's in the background, right? So, door manufacturers with that kick thing. I talked to Guy, and I talked to Charlie Agazzino, and you guys had them at like the U23s World Championships, and they do a great job. But like, they are even in distribution now. They have a tablet, a disinfectant tablet that kills COVID-19, and they had to watch out for hoarding. You know what I mean? Yeah. Well, yeah, man. Look at the toilet paper. Look at the toilet paper thing. And it's like they're in a similar situation. It's something where it's a necessary product. I saw Kyvan Gatson did a thing. He went and he did hand soap. He's like, why is all the hand soap gone? What have people been doing? Haven't they been washing their hands? What's going on? And it's like, that's a product of hoarding. That's what that is. It's what it is. And it's like talking to Charlie and even just a little bit to Guy, dude, they're so busy. They can't even the product just moves. It moves. And it's like, door manufacturers, when they start doing that kick door thing, it's literally what's going to happen.
Yeah. And then, it's going to be all this innovation, like in small spaces. How do you do a door that isn't a pull door or push door? And if you did keep it the way it is it just like an extra motor on top? And where do you get the energy from that? So there's going to be all this sort of thing. And that's just such a minor aspect, right? That's just a very, very small part of this whole thing. But it is interesting. And, I think obviously there's going to be significant economic impact. I think that we're looking at September, October being like a time frame where we're going to probably have to go through this again. And what is that going to mean? Like, when we go back into quarantine, is it going to be a bunch of people who are hoarding? Or are there going to be policies in place where we're going to be able to prevent that type of behavior? What's it going to do to rental prices, outside New York City for homes? People are going to be running away again because they don't want to be quarantined in their 900 square foot home. My brother's a family law attorney. He's like, this is a gold rush. He's like, we're coming into a gold rush. He's like, people living in these homes together, there's going to be a lot more divorces coming up. There's domestic violence issues. So I think it's going to recalibrate the way we think a lot about the world, and so a lot for the worse, I'm sure, and some for the better.
I look at when you talk about that, China is now reporting. Well, I don't know how much we can trust China. It's got to be honest. When it's state-run media, I don't even know how much we can trust our media, which is like independent,
Yeah.
right? But China doesn't. Like, they skew their numbers. They do all this crazy stuff, and in dealing with China, it's very difficult, right?
Yeah.
But they're now reporting, and they're reporting a high number of divorces as they're coming
Oh,
out of
really?
quarantine. Yeah, I saw that. But once again, Tim, can we really believe a lot of the stuff you see on the internet? Like, I just say I heard that from you, right? Like, I've also heard stuff like, oh, they stopped out, certain states have stopped alcohol sales, right? Like, and I'll say these things to my wife. It flashes across your screen, and you give it 5 seconds of thought, right?
Yeah.
You don't know what's true and what's not true anymore. It's like you got to go
Yeah, it's
check
hard. I mean,
five deep,
putting on
right?
putting on like my old journalism hat, like I tend to, just my personal experience, I tend to stick to, like, the major 3 or 4 outlets of Reuters, AP, New York Times, Washington Post, and I stay away from, not sharing necessarily, but I stay away from taking as fact opinion. Like, they have an opinion page, I try to separate that from those, obviously, from the fact driven stories, and it actually drives a lot of people on both sides of the aisle crazy, because you'll see, people who are a little bit more liberal, they'll be like, why are they not, saying the president's lying? Why aren't they using the word lie? And the New York Times is trying to, they're trying their best, I think, to try to shoot the center or get to the facts. But you're right. I mean, it is hard doing these things. Media, in terms of Chinese media, yes, the state-run media is not giving you any close to any indication, and that's because the Communist Party is different than the Communist Party is it is the Chinese government, but there's two separate things. They should be, and then you have the people and everything else. But they were talking about the numbers in Wuhan and Hubei province being so low and underreported, and it makes complete sense in a system where if you report the true numbers, let's say that you're the leader of a community in the Chinese government, in the Communist Party, if you have, say, over 1 million people, and you're reporting that 19,000 people in your community died, and that guy's over there saying he only had 1,000, well, of course you're going to lie about the number that you had, because you don't want to be the tallest weed, when it comes time to start pointing blame in the communist government, you don't want to be the highest one. So, of course, those numbers are wildly underreported with deaths and everything. So, but there's no good information coming out of China unless it's, a foreign outlet.
Yeah. Another thing is, like, I look at that whole Chernobyl thing. Like, the HBO did this Chernobyl. It's like, once again, you got to pick and choose what you believe, and you got to research. And it was their biggest thing is they wanted to deny, lower numbers, minimalize whatever was happening. And you see that we're talking about a similar situation as far as that state-run media, right?
Yeah.
This is state-run media now, and it's like they once again, you don't want to be the person who's giving out the high information or the alarming information to people. You know what I mean?
Right.
And especially
I mean, that's it's yes. And as we were having this conversation, I saw a New York. The only press alert that I have are what are they called? Push alerts, push notifications.
Yeah, notification.
And it says, coronavirus deaths in America are being underreported because unless the CDC is not taking it as a real number, unless the person that died was actually tested for coronavirus. So, we're seeing it here where there's the same discrepancies, and of course, if you go too far in either direction, you see just like insane conspiracy theories or whatever.
Yeah, I'm seeing a lot of that. Like a lot. Oh, this isn't real.
You're like, actually, and you're like, wait, no, they're not. What are they talking about?
How about when the people are like, this isn't real, this is man-made, it was created to control us? And I'm like, get your tinfoil hat off, man. Come on. I mean, like, you're nuts.
I know. It's hard.
That's crazy, right?
Sometimes, like, if something is too big, conspiracy theories are a way for people to protect themselves from, like, a harsh reality, right? Like, Sandy Hook, there's a lot of deniers, and it's such a horrible thing to contemplate that you just think it didn't, you have to come up with some other solution. Anyway.
Yeah, like, was it you that was mad about Alex Jones having a platform? Alex Jones was on the Rockfin thing, and I'm like, well, I think it was a bad look for Alex Jones, who's an idiot and a piece of garbage anyway. But But once again, it's really hard to wash Alex Jones from everything. Would you agree with that?
Hard, yeah, of course. I mean,
Yeah, I
just
mean,
have to
getting rid of that guy
answer
is
what
hard to
but I
do.
mean, like, yeah, but I mean, you're getting into the bigger question of like, what is the social media platform's responsibility to govern the people who provide the content? And different countries have handled it in different ways. Of course, like Germany, for example, its laws apply to the platform. Where in America, obviously, we're very cognizant of First Amendment rights and the ability to use that. But at the same time, Facebook isn't. Facebook is an example, but Facebook isn't the town hall. It is a service, and there's user agreements you can sign up for. So it does get interesting as to who can and can't be on certain platforms. Yeah.
So they've deplatformed. If you look at Facebook, you look at Twitter, they've completely deplatformed Alex Jones. But do they still attempt to try and scrub him from everything on there?
I don't know. I didn't follow it. I'm not sure.
But they've deplatformed, like he cannot post his own information on there. He cannot post
Right.
content.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. I mean, I definitely remember him getting deplatformed. I mean, he's been successfully sued also by the parents from Sandy Hook and all those kind of things. I mean, he's just a grade A loser, and it really doesn't. I think sometimes it's as simple as just he's just not a good guy. What he says is inflammatory for the purposes of selling, protein powder.
Did you see in one of the lawsuits? Actually, it was him and his wife were getting divorced, and they were splitting up custody of the kids. And actually, his defense was in one of them. Uh, oh, it's a gimmick, basically. This is just a thing.
Yeah, yeah.
Did you know that? Did you know that that was one of his
Yeah, I
defenses?
saw that.
Yeah, like someone said to me, like, could you drive clicks like that? I'm like, no, I want to live with myself. I want to be able to look in the mirror. I'm not a piece of garbage.
It
Like,
doesn't matter. At the end of the day, like, yeah, you might make some more money, but then you're not providing a better life for your family if they're soaked in a life of fraud and just and alarmist and conspiracy theories, right? So what's the main if the main goal is just to make money,
yeah,
sure, you should do what you want to do, right? Or whatever, that's your moral code, then that's your moral code in a sense. But if for you as a family guy, for you to drive clicks that way, I think it would be, it would run counterintuitive to what you're trying to actually achieve, which is a better life for your family and for your kids to grow up with respect for you and those types of basic basic functions.
I think someone like that, he's so far off the rails too. You know what I mean? I think he's so far gone. I don't think there's any coming back for him. You know what I mean?
No,
Like, no, you know what I mean? Like, even just the Sandy Hook was a hoax thing, and how the family successfully sued him.
yeah,
I think it really exposed his playbook even more. And I mean, if you ever watched the show, it's insane. He's just got like new, it's nuts to watch it. If you ever like just, I know you'll lose your mind. I can just sit there and be like, okay, this guy's nuts. But like he's just got news
yeah.
releases printed out, and they're like starting, and he just like he goes off. But let's talk about you and UWW and the future of UWW moving forward. Tim. Moving forward, what do you guys see? Obviously, the Olympics handed down they've essentially moved it back 12 months, and
Right,
everybody will keep their qualification who got it through their continentals, right?
right.
Okay. What else moving forward do you see? Once obviously we don't know, but like where do we go from here, and what do you guys do with now? You have to create a year of events. We don't even know if we can have those events, right?
Yeah, certainly. I mean, I think that the Bureau met this Friday, had a conference call and started, creating the initial guidelines for what they want to follow. What is it that they want to achieve in the rest of 2020? What is necessary to achieve? What's beneficial to achieve? When's the last date that they want to make sure that they're having the continental qualifiers, the last chance qualifier, which is the top two from a combined tournament of nations who don't have Olympic licenses at that weight. And then, of course, we have another ranking series event. In addition to the not grade school, for the different age group world championships and the age group continental championships. So I think what they're trying to decide is give us, if X is the date that we want to run something, we have to understand in terms to be a good partner to the national federations, they have to have at least 6 weeks of time to train. So the date, let's say that you could project out that worldwide people are going to be out of this situation, or most people are going to be out of this situation come July 1. Let's say you could predict that. You couldn't have an event before August 15th because these athletes need to be able to get together, train back up to standard, and then qualify. So, there is like this back date, or if there's a qualification tournament that needs to happen internally inside the country to qualify themselves to go to the Continentals. And if you want to do a World Championships, really what you have to do is you have to have the backstop before the Continentals, get the Continentals done, and then also get the World Championships done. And then if you add in these kids are mostly in school, what time of year are you doing those things? But right now, I think that obviously the plan is to just make sure everybody gets qualified for the Olympics. I think that's the number one goal, is to ensure that the qualification process for the Olympic Games is completed in a time that also allows those athletes to come back down, rest, recover, and then start peaking again for the Games. And I think second to that is creating ranking series tournament and also the age group World Championships, Continental Championships, and stuff like that. And then I think sort of overarching to all those things, it needs to be a system in which guidelines are established. How are we going to run tournaments? This isn't tennis. There's no natural social distancing. This sport has the most to sort of own up to in terms of health. We already have medical checks, and we're already sort of maybe even the standard bearer when it comes to sports and ensuring safety among athletes in contact. But when you're talking about a virus like this, how does that look? I mean, is there a testing? Is there temperature taking? Is there antibody test? Is that even on the table, given World Health Guidelines? So there's a lot of questions that need to be answered in terms of how you run those tournaments as well.
And now the testing obviously has gotten better, right? I don't know what testing you had. You had the one where they put the Q-tip into your brain, I think, and
5 days though.
But it was 5 days. Now they're saying they got like a 5 minute or 2 or 3, right? Like it's technology, it's progress. We're America, and we'd like to think that we're on the front edge of everything. Yours was 5 days. It was 5. What did you do for 5 days? Like you just like played with your daughter every day, right? Like what'd you do?
Yeah, I mean, you just kind of keep your distance. I mean, I guess I kind of just understood at that point, given the fact that I was suffering from, I think it was called nausea or whatever, that it was fairly obvious that I had it, and just had to keep treating the situation like we were, that I did have it. But yeah, I mean, I think until there's not going to be a glut of tests for quite some time. And we do hope that testing, obviously, the turnaround time improves, because we can do more with that, right? We can definitely do more with more testing.
We have to.
Sport level, And I think I brought this up before, and it's not going to be dark and gloomy, but if you look at ODU and how they obviously just dropped their program, and they cited coronavirus concerns, which may or may not be, partly crap. It is illustrating that there's going to be a larger issue that we face, which is there could be a reduction in the number of athletes that are coming out for wrestling come the spring and the summer, which is going to reduce the payrolls of local clubs and reduce the number of memberships for USA Wrestling. And any kind of decline like that is obviously going to be felt all the way up the food chain, right? And we just have to make sure that we're all aware that that's very likely going to happen, especially in a time of, this is regardless, this is if the economy whipsaws back into shape. But if it doesn't, it's even going to be worse, right? But we're going to take the biggest financial hit or even cultural hit, just because of the way that the sport is formed. We're in such close contact, and there's such an immense fear now driven about catching contagious disease. It's going to be really hard for wrestling to combat that. It's going to take a massive PR effort. It's going to take a vaccine. It's going to take a lot. And I'm just concerned that the next 2 years could be really, really tough for the sport and I don't even know what we can really do about it. I mean, there must be some innovations we can make, but, on the grassroots level, it's going to be very difficult to imagine a mom in Ohio saying, go to wrestling practice in July or August.
Tim,
That's a big move down, but
you grew up. Did you grow up in Virginia?
Yeah, I grew up in Northern Virginia.
So
Ish.
Nova. Ish.
More like between Richmond and DC.
What high school did you go to?
Went to Brook Point High School. It's next to where Colonial Forge later came in.
Okay. So you grew up doing freestyle. Now you work, or I'm sorry, you grew up doing folk style. You're a folk style All American,
Yeah.
and now you're in an organization that is freestyle Greco. They don't like, dude. If
Yeah.
you've ever talked to any of these foreign guys, like I remember Joe Williamson and I went and covered the Russian Nationals in like 2009, and we showed him. He showed him some video of like the Northeast duels, and they were laughing at the wrestling. It was like Brent Metcalf, and
Yeah.
there were like good guys in the video, and they were like, "What is this?"
Yeah.
Right? They don't understand. Like the guys they're doing Granby rolls and flips, and they were like, "Why is the guy rolling across his back?" It was funny to them. They were like making fun of it,
Yeah.
and it was funny because and like so now you're working for an organization that is opposite of where you gained your success in wrestling, right? Because you're an All-American at UVA. Did you win the Virginia State title? Never won Virginia, but you were an All-American.
Yeah. I had a dream. I was just telling my wife on this walk. I was like, it doesn't leave you. Last year wrestling, I think, was like 2004 or so, 2005. I think I did a year or two so. But 2004, I woke up this morning like with a crushing anxiety because I had chosen not to prepare for. In my dreams, I had chosen not to prepare for a match I had lost, and it was like the end of my season. But I thought I had one more match. That was like the whole dream, and I still dream about missing weight. Never missed weight, but I still dream about like that I would miss weight. You know what I mean? Like it's still kind of ingrained in me. And in terms of like freestyle versus like the folk style and that kind of stuff, it's just a different style, right? It's just a different style of wrestling. I spent a lot of time, researching different styles, and they all have there are so many similarities across all of them. There's obviously technical differences, but the job doesn't necessarily require that I know all of the. I mean, I do obviously know all the techniques and the people, but just mostly about distributing the information to our fans, our partners, and those sorts of things.
What are your thoughts on? Do you see how like steadfast Dana White is about having a UFC event? Like how crazy is that guy, and how out of touch is he with this whole situation?
Yeah, I mean, I think he has a lot of pressure.
No, I know that he's got to make money. I get that.
I think his fighters aren't getting paid, and I think he feels some sort of compulsion to do that. I think also, is it Endeavor? He's the other owner, but he's been paying out coupons to people who invested. He wants to keep those going. He doesn't want to sort of start taking big losses, and maybe he's overexposed in some ways or whatever. But also, whatever, if he is able to put a fight on, I mean, he knows that the upside's huge in terms of driving interest. Everyone's gonna watch it. You could watch daytime soaps. That could be the only thing you watch. It's a sport. If any sporting event comes on, you're gonna want to watch it. So, Dana White is just he's Dana White. He's just gonna promote as he can, right?
Yeah,
So.
and I can tell you that if you and listen. So one of my best friends is a WWE superstar. He's Dolph Ziggler. I wrestled with him in college. Nick Nemeth. He's Dolph Ziggler now. Did you see what they've done? Have you seen what the WWE's done with this?
No, I heard something about they had some event last night. Maybe
they have WrestleMania. I think they split it in 2 days. So they have, and if you've ever seen WrestleMania, is their Super Bowl.
Yeah.
They've done 90,000 seat arenas and they've done the Levi's Arena out in San Francisco. You know what I mean?
Okay.
So but the point is, we get that the outcomes are predetermined. Everybody knows that. They're taking real bumps, though. You know what I mean? Those guys are taking real bumps. He's had a lot of pretty bad injuries, but if you look at that, will we be able to go back to that? Will the NBA be able to go back to fanless games? I'm not saying you're the expert on this, but what does the future hold? Do we even know? You guys have done it. You actually held an event, a fanless event. The guys weren't shaking hands. I mean, can we do that?
Yeah, our guys weren't shaking hands. I don't know.
Fist bump. I saw more fist bumps.
Fist bumps.
I saw fist bump. I was watching it. I was because Andy Hamilton gave me the code and I watched on track. But a lot of guys weren't some of them weren't smacking hands. It was.
Yeah, I don't know. I think that what you're talking about obviously is the two things, which is the competition itself, and then the ability to have a gate. And I certainly think they're going to limp back into any gates once events do start. But I think that there was floated the idea that football was going to be played in August, and I would have a hard time believing that, only in the sense of, let me give you the worst case scenario. 100 and some odd thousand people die before August 1st, right? That's sort of like the day. It'll be between 80 and 200,000 people. Don't get me started on, we have our different opinions, maybe we don't, but whatever, I have my opinion. But let's just say that the country is mourning the loss of 100,000 of its own citizens, which is just horrific. If you have a football game, it can feel therapeutic, right? Like one of the things that after 9/11, I think, football coming back was a big deal. That was a pretty straight thing. This is like a psychological battle that America is coming into. We've only been doing this now for 2 weeks, 3 weeks. We're going to be doing this for 8 more weeks, right? And then if there's time off and if something doesn't flare up, I mean, can you imagine if it resurfaces in early September and Americans are at football games and spreading it to each other, what that would, I mean, I don't know. I just feel like the cost benefit analysis maybe hasn't been thought through if that's the circumstance, assuming that the virus comes back out in September, October, like if it follows the seasonality like that, then it's really difficult. It'd be hard for me to look at it and say, yeah, we should all go to a football game. But I'm just one guy, and I do think that that's what they're going to push for because there's so much money on the line. But it's the same. It's baseball. It's whatever. But I would encourage anybody who thinks about this to look into the study of the game in Lombardy, Italy, the soccer game in Lombardy, Italy. People ask a lot of times, like, why was Northern Italy so bad? And what was made obvious in this story was it was the biggest game, and I think Lombardy's, whatever their team, their history. And so a bunch of people came in from all over Northern Italy. They watched the game and they went back. So many people got infected and they just spread it out. And that's, by and large, that was what caused the spread. And I would hate to see that happening in America to watch football. So maybe or maybe not, there's going to be some amount of either social distancing at the games. They don't fill up the arena, and or maybe there's a certain circumstance in which they just play to an empty crowd, which would feel extremely weird.
So my wife's from Ann Arbor, Michigan. Her high school is right across from Pioneer High School is right across from the Big House, right? I don't know if you've ever been to a game. There's 100,000+ people. If everybody stands up, you're sitting on top of a quarter when you sit back down. I don't know how Michigan can do that. I don't know how the University of Michigan. I don't know how Ohio State and these dude, they have 100. Penn State. They've got 90 to 110,000 people in their stadium. Like, I just don't know how you can do that. Like, I'm just football. If it follows like a flu type cycle, like as far as timing, right? Because the flu comes back around September, October, right? Because we're indoors more, and there's right. I mean, then that kind of part of what does it that goes outdoors. That's something, right? I'm not a doctor and an infectious disease person.
I'm not an epidemiologist.
Yeah. I'm a social studies teacher and a part-time media guy. So you know what I mean. Like I don't know how that works, but like you're saying, I just don't know how you can have football. I get that there's billions on the line. I just don't know how.
That includes college football, and that's what scares me about NCAA wrestling is it's like a business in a lot of ways. And I don't know, because a lot of them are in debt, right? Like a lot of these schools run with debt. They are built on some amount of debt. And if kids aren't going to college, paying their bills because their parents can't afford to go to school because they're in the midst or coming out of this massive recession when people haven't worked. So now they're going to have a reduction in student fees. They're going to have a reduction in enrollment. They're going to have an obvious reduction. You're not going to put 105,000 people in the Big House. It's just not, like you said, it's just not possible. It's not a situation in which people would feel comfortable going. And they're going to have reduced gates. They're going to, they could have reduced television rights or whatever the circumstances are going to be. It's not the football team that's going to get cut. And, when the board asks these athletic departments to make tough decisions, we want to make sure that they're not reaching for the wrestling team. And it's unclear if that's going to be the case. I'm not sure how it's going to be individual by individual case basis, but you already saw Cody who had just wildly overspent on their football program to get him up to Division I status as a savior type thing. The first thing they went for. It's the first thing they went for. It's just such a common reaction, So I fear that that's going to happen again and again at programs that are middling or that where they're susceptible.
I saw they kept rowing, which really makes sense around there culturally, where you guys are, right? How far are you from Norfolk right now?
I'm in Norfolk.
Oh, you're in Norfolk, so you're right there.
Yeah, from the university. I'm like 10 minutes away.
Okay,
I'm
so you
like,
could jog by it probably if you wanted to.
what's that?
You could run by it if you wanted to. You could run there, couldn't you?
Yeah, my brothers live. I have a bunch of brothers, and a couple of them live in Norfolk, and yeah, they're a few blocks from ODU, wherever.
So it's right there. They kept rowing though, which culturally makes sense to the area you're in.
Mm-hmm.
Rowing makes sense. I don't know. I know rowing is probably more expensive, and I know that I looked at a breakdown. I think they've got a bunch of teams they kept with foreign athletes, right? But wrestling is just the easiest target, man. People don't understand it. They don't understand the rule set. It's barbaric to them. It's two dudes rolling around and sing. They just don't get it. So I think it's an easy target, but it's cheap to keep. That's the other thing. Like wrestling, what do you need? You need a mat and a room, right? Like you don't need what you need with all these other sports. Like I don't know what rowing's cost is, right? I don't know that. I don't know what that is. But
I don't
wrestling's
either. I mean, I
easy.
think that there is just it's a habit. It's a habit to cut wrestling as well. I mean, it's something that you reach for and it's there. And one of the biggest reasons it's had a target on its back for so long is that there's no female equivalent that's been prevalent at the Division 1 level. And I think, especially with work that Sally Roberts is doing with Wrestle Like a Girl, you're seeing that growth happen. But I do wonder if it's not too little too late because it is obviously having a positive impact. But when you sort of add it to the magic stew of pandemic, how is it gonna, can you really have a school take on more athletes during this time? Maybe that is the way for it. Maybe it is like an enrollment based thing, and we can just get the schools that need it. If it pumps enrollment, then it pumps money back into the school, and they'll take it.
I think that football, and I don't know if you agree with me or not, I just think football kills the Olympic sports, man. It's just like somebody said to me the other day, they're like, oh, well, you have entire athletic women's departments who don't have 115 athletes in them.
Yeah.
You have 120, 115 athletes, 85 if it's Division 1, 85 full rides. You can't make whole women's athletic departments, right? And then if you look at the revenue, there's only a handful of women's sports that actually make revenue, right? What's the cash cow? Football's the cash cow. Men's basketball is the cash cow. So it's like you're saying, it's so business based, and wrestling's just easy. And not having a women's equivalent has killed it. I agree with you.
We've capitalized it, right? It's become part of like the American economy to make money off of college sports. That's really not the purpose. The ultimate purpose was never to make money. It was to have students who go to the university have activities that they could do against other, kids from different regions, from different schools. It's a diversity of opportunity, right? It's a diversity of experience that's brought on the campus. Like my ability to know somebody on the women's rowing team or the field hockey team is a diversity. I'm getting a diverse look at experiences as well. And so having more opportunities at a school provides an educational experience, which is much fuller and much richer. And cutting programs and leaving just the football team is in no way benefiting the educational growth of your student body. That's one sport, and it's just not the main function of an educational system is not to ensure that the people who wear the chosen colors of university, maybe make a couple $100,000, at the end of the day after expenses for your school. That shouldn't be it. If you want to support it, then you can support it. You just have to understand that it's not losing money. There is a return on investment. It's just not always dollars and cents.
You're talking about like the manifest versus a latent function. Like the actual function of it was to promote diversity and to promote experiences between and then it became a business. There's a latent function, right? Like that's the latent function of it has become, let's make a bunch of money.
Yeah.
And
let's sell advertising. Let's get sponsorships. Like, in these athletic departments, bless them. There's a lot of people that are in forefront, but like, college campuses have a lot of admin costs, and that's the same with athletic departments. what is needed, what isn't needed needs to be revisited, I think, a lot of times before you just go cutting opportunities from individuals. And that includes the student body. And yeah.
There's way too many fake made up jobs. That's my interpretation. It's just my opinion of what you just said. There's just so many fake made up jobs that are just not. They're just. It's so much fat that, and they're trimming the wrong. They're trimming. They're trimming fat that's not supposed to be trimmed. They're keeping 5 people in $200,000 and $300,000 jobs when they can get rid of those 5 people and keep the program. I'm with you on that 100%. And my life is completely based off of my whole experience of my life is because of my wife played volleyball at Kent State and I wrestled at Kent State. That's the whole.
Yeah.
That's how this whole thing is even a thing.
Sure.
I don't know where you met your wife, but that's where I met my wife.
No, yeah.
Right? Right. I don't know what else to say about that. Like I'm the poster child for that, for experiences and diversity. Like, you think I'm gonna go track down an Ann Arbor liberal in a bar? I'm not gonna do that. I met this.
You make a good point, though. It also provides the student body a diverse opportunity, and it motivates certain individuals to perform better in their own lives. If they see someone performing well on the field, like, one of the great thing about athletic feats is it can motivate us to do better in our jobs outside of it. Unfortunately, the way that it works, when someone does a really good job on a math problem, I very rarely get to see that innovation, or I get to see the hard work. But you do get to see it in athletics, and that it does include more than the great catch on the football field. It includes great moments on the wrestling mat or on the volleyball court, and it's really opportunity that needs to be retained at these schools. It needs to be an experience that the student body can interact with.
Yeah, I mean, no question. And then the first thing I always ask someone, if a kid's from Blacksburg and they end up at UVA, what's the first question I'm going to ask a kid who's from Blacksburg or Christiansburg and they go to UVA? What's the first question?
Why?
What?
That would be the first question.
Yeah. Why would you, you know what I mean? Why would you leave your home community where you've got this, what do you think the first question to my wife was, who's from Ann Arbor? Why are you here at Kent State? When a kid's from Columbus and they go to Michigan or Michigan State, my first question is very easy. Like, why didn't you just go to Ohio State, right? Like, it's like a no-brainer. Like, anyone who questions that, like, come on, dummy, right? Like, right? Like, yours makes sense. How far are you from UVA? How far are you from UVA? When you were born and raised in the high school, how far is that?
Hour and a half.
Hour and a half.
I was a walk-on.
What place did you take in the NCAA tournament, Tim?
8.
You took 174?
65.
65. Was Lenny your coach?
Yeah, Lenny Bernstein.
Yeah, and then was Steve an assistant then?
No, Steve never was an assistant at UVA. He was a 5th year my first year, and then he left and he became an assistant at Cornell. I stayed there for, I think, 9-10 years, maybe 11, and then he came down. He got the head coaching job. But he's actually been at UVA longer than Lenny was, which is interesting.
Do they still wrestle in that little gym?
They do some at the big arena. I know that they still wrestled a little bit at Mim Gym, and they moved. They were like in a building that got torn down, their workout facility, and they moved it to Mim Gym as well. So I think they're all just in the littler gym now.
Yeah, because we wrestled a duel there in that little gym, and it was a crazy weekend. We drove down. We wrestled ODU, we wrestled UVA, Tech, and somebody else, because it was we took a bus and we beat all of them. And I remember we wrestled a try with the ODU and UVA, and it was our 600th program win, and I still have the paperweight, and the 600th win was ODU. And then the other day, one of my buddies sent me a picture of it, and I was like,
"What year was that?"
I'd have to look. 01 maybe, 02. I can look. I'll send you a picture of the paperweight though. That win over ODU was in UVA's gym, and I wrestled a kid from St. Ed's on UVA's team.
Steve Mazzola?
Yeah, that's who I wrestled.
Yeah.
97? Yeah, 97.
Oh, wait, 97?
197. 197. I was 197.
St. Ed's?
Yeah.
Oh, no, you're thinking of, he wasn't from St. Ed's. He was from, Canton.
Did he go to Walsh, maybe?
No,
he was an Ohio guy. I wrestled an Ohio guy.
He was an Ohio kid.
Yeah.
Exactly right.
Yes, I wrestled that guy.
Exactly. You beat him?
I don't know. I was 500, so I wasn't super good.
He was good. He was a little butterball.
Yeah, I wrestled that guy.
He could freaking he could move. He was very, very good.
If I find the results, I'll shoot them to you.
Yeah, shoot him to that. I don't know if I wrestled in that match.
It would have been 0102. When did you graduate high school? 2000?
No, 99.
Nine.
I went to NCAA's in 2, 3, and 4.
Okay. And all at 65? So you probably wrestled Nick Nemeth.
No, I wrestled 57 until my final year was 65.
Because we wrestled you guys. Kent State, we wrestled you there.
We wrestled you guys a few times.
Did you wrestle Mike Tolar?
Who?
Mike Tolar. He was an NCAA qualifier for us, 57.
Yes.
Oh,
so
man.
Like at the West Virginia Open or something.
Isn't that weird? It's so weird stuff that's not around anymore. Not around anymore. Well, listen, I know you got to get your daughter's. You got anything else for me? Any airing of grievances? Hey, you're a loudmouth idiot on Twitter. Shut up. Like, what do you got for me? Come on, let's open it up.
I want everybody to. I mean, I was like the biggest concern is I just want everybody. I think, like all of us, to just take it serious. Take this thing more seriously than you ever could imagine. I mean, you know, I was fine. You know, I was sick, but I will tell you, losing your sense of smell and taste for any reason, and not knowing at the time because it wasn't associated with it quite yet. It was a couple days after I lost my. Not knowing why was scarier than hell. So I'm sure, you know, people are very, very sick and they're having problems breathing. They can't catch their breath. It's going to be terrifying. So nobody should go through that experience. Keep your distance. Just wait it out. Learn a new language. Do a puzzle. Whatever it is. Just stay home. And that's the one thing. And I want everybody to stay safe. And then the other would just be when we talk about the things that we love. When we talk about wrestling, returning to a sense of normalcy. We need to be proactive as a community and come together and figure out ideas and ways for people in our community to feel safe when they return to the mats and when they start interacting with each other. And that's going to take, it's going to take a lot of positive thought, but it's also going to take a lot of just cooperation, like working with our friends. If it's to people at Defense Soap, if it's, maybe finding time to send, Mike Moyer or Rich Bender and a polite email of here are some ideas and here's some people you should work with. Whatever the situation is, in any small way you can help, in a big way you can help. We're just thinking of ways to protect our sport from what is going to be a very difficult stretch of 18 months to 24 months when we all have to get through this. And we all need to do our best to protect our sport, and that's going to take a certain amount of cooperation. And then finally, I just hope that we all can enjoy, what wrestling we do get. I hope that we all can enjoy it together and have lively banter about outcomes and rankings and all that kind of stuff, because those days feel, too far away already, and so when we do have that opportunity, I hope that everybody can enjoy it.
Awesome, Tim. Is your baby still asleep?
I think so.
Yeah. What's her name?
Her name's Quinn.
Quinn. Okay. And where'd you meet your wife?
I met her in New York.
Met her in Manhattan.
Yeah.
Nice. And she works in finance, so.
Yeah, she's a good person.
Awesome. Where's she from?
She's Chinese, but she's from Pueblo, Colorado.
Pueblo, Colorado.
Yeah.
That's like high desert, isn't it?
Yeah. She's like I think they were the only Asian family in Pueblo for like 10 years.
Are you serious?
Yeah. No, seriously.
Did she go to that college? Did she go to UC Pueblo?
No, I think she went northeast to Wellesley. But yeah, she actually goes to the same. She went to high school in Colorado Springs, the same place that Bender's kids go.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Awesome.
Yeah.
And Bender's, isn't one of Bender's kids she's on the equine team at Oklahoma State.
Yeah, I think she was graduating, but yeah.
So the wrestling is so crazy how it's all like, so many people and you're so intermingled, man. It's just wild.
Yeah, exactly. You're exactly right.
It's just wild. Oh, hey, how was your run, by the way? You said you went on a run. Like, how much have you recovered?
Yesterday was my first. I'd done burpees while I was COVID-y, and it was just the worst mistake I've ever made. It was horrible. I couldn't catch my breath. It was so bad. I can't even explain.
Why would you do that?
I was choking. I don't know what I was thinking.
What are you doing?
I know. But it's like that whole wrestling mentality of like, oh, I'm not sick. I can do this. It's so stupid. It was horrible. Anyway, but then I just went for like a light jog yesterday. Felt pretty good.
How far?
Burn, but
How far did you make it?
burn. 2.5 miles.
You made 2.5 miles? Were you running 10-minute miles at least?
What's that?
10-minute miles? 10 miles an hour? Like, what was your pace?
I hope it wasn't a 10-minute mile, but it was certainly. I'm certainly not breaking any land speed records. No, it was me and my wife. We were doing like a like a friendly, like nice little jog.
Like, okay, so I go out and I run, and I try and keep it between 9:30 and like 11. I'm a 250-pound man, so
Yeah,
that's what I try and do.
I think that's a great range. I mean, that's I don't know. I'm just saying. I hope it was faster, only because of how tired I felt.
Okay, got it. Well, it's good. I'm glad that you got out, but don't do any. I would wait on the hard labor because I've been splitting wood and stuff like that too, and it's just like, you got to dial it down, man.
Right.
So, all right, you good?
Thanks for having me on.
Awesome, Tim. I appreciate the time. Enjoy the water there. Enjoy your baby, and keep recovering, man. I appreciate the time. Stick around a little bit here afterwards, and we cut this video off. All right.
All right.